First one that I really related to was hiring the wrong people. So I did not have a good hiring process. I was going strictly off of people I had known or I was friends with um, that seemed interested in what I was doing, but just didn't have the technical skill set. In particular, one of those turned out to be my business partner, and we did not have the same mentality when it came to operating a business. I was definitely into reinvesting anything that we had into growing the company. He was the mindset of we need to cut costs to try to meet cash flow. I had to purchase his shares back from him, and then I did have to fill his position, and it was a quick transition to try to replace him, and I did not replace him with a very good candidate. So a lot of struggles there, especially when these people are the face of the business. We were trying to create a culture for our customers, and it didn't match with what I had in mind. So over the years, we've become a lot more proficient at identifying who we want to work for us, making sure that they have kind of the emotional intelligence that we need, and that we can train them up on the technical side. That's been key for us, and I think we've got a really good crew now. We've got 9 of us working here. It's very cohesive, and I think that's the reason for it. So I also had not charging enough and not knowing your numbers. Both those are kind of related. We did kind of what's called an Oreo cookie approach to charging. So we went out and kind of surveyed all our competitors, and we found the lowest and the highest, and we just kind of priced our stuff in the middle. We did it for a long time, and we worked very hard, and we just kept losing money. It's very frustrating, especially when you have certain customers that will come in. It doesn't matter what you charge; it was always too much. So we really had to focus on who it was we were going to serve. We really had to forget about what our competitors were charging, and we had to go in and just work from our expenses and figure out which margins we wanted, and then grow it from there. So we could either charge as much and do the job and make money at it, or the customer wasn't going to want to do it. But either way, we weren't going to work and not make any money. That was another kind of a round of people that left the company when we started making that transition. Some people just thought we were charging too much. The reality is, 10, 15 years ago when we were making those decisions, it's not near what everybody's charging right now. We're very competitive in our market. We still don't shop people, but we do know how much we have to make in order for us to maintain our fixed expenses, and then show some profit and distribute that among our employees at the end of the day. So, and then really just not knowing your numbers, I think that tied in with it really well. We hired a coaching company out of Baltimore that was specific for auto repair shops. We got a very pinpoint education on our industry, and we took a lot of that. It really helped us grow as a company and helped us grow rapidly. You reach a certain point with that coaching company that they just can't help you anymore. But a lot of the fundamentals we carry forward to this day, and numbers was a strong one of those. Once we understood that, hey, there's this thing called margins, there's this thing called profit.
All of them. First of all, we never had a stated vision at the beginning, and then for many years. Really, we went 10 years and until we started working with the EOS process. We were missing a lot of components. So vision was definitely missing. We had all kinds of the wrong people, and we didn't know why. And so, that was an ongoing challenge that we had in those early days. I think charging enough was another area where, it took some time for us to really figure out the proper price points and margins that kept us healthy. It's a competitive business that we're in, like so many competitive industry. And we didn't have the expertise in it. And as a result, our margins were consistently lower than the industry averages. And so that took us some time to figure out and to feel confident about, that we should get paid for the level of service that we bring to the table. true to our core, the way that we met Gino was actually we got away from our core because we made a small acquisition, which was outside of our core business, and we were struggling with it. And so not only had we not mastered our own business, but here we brought on this other business, and we were trying to wrap our arms around that. And I remember Joel, my business partner, and I were sitting down one day and just talking. And Joel said, "Does it seem to you like this is really hard? Like it shouldn't be this hard. It's only been 6 months, and it just doesn't seem like it's clicking." That led us to go out to our peers, and that's how we ended up meeting Gino. And Gino came in, and we our original reason for meeting was this quandary that we were dealing with, and Gino said, "Hey, you can make it successful, but the best companies stay focused." And he actually recommended a book called Focus by Al Ries, and we read it. And that was, his advice plus the book was enough to put us over the edge to say, we're going to undo the acquisition. Like, we're just going to close it up and we need to stay focused on our core. And that's what we've done successfully ever since. I mean, we really have not gotten distracted in the least bit. So we did get off our core, and that was big. Roles and responsibilities. Yeah, for sure. 100%. Even with my business partner and I, with Joel and I, we were tripping over each other in the early days. I'd call a customer and then he'd come in and say, "Yeah, I just got off with the customer and they said they already talked to you." And I'd say, who owns that? We had people all over the organization it was all disjointed. And we didn't even really have clear titles and roles and responsibilities that were documented and accountability around those roles and responsibilities. So those were huge mistakes. I always thought I knew the numbers really well. And then there was a point in time after I'd met Jack Stack, who I mentioned is one of my mentors and teaches financial literacy and kind of teaches how to teach it. And I got really interested in that. And I realized that when I was reading an income statement and a balance sheet, I felt I understood it pretty well. But if I had to go teach it to somebody, I couldn't do a good job at that. And when I became interested in us teaching our team and opening our books and having to teach it, that became a huge challenge for me personally. And I realized I really don't understand the numbers at the level I need to. And I've been going all these years without. And that was really an impactful time for me as a leader and as an entrepreneur, was to actually learn how to teach it. Because people start asking you questions and you don't have the answers, and you have to be vulnerable enough to say, "I don't know the answer, but I'm going to find out and I'm going to come back. I'm learning along with you." And I would encourage entrepreneurs to not only learn the numbers, but learn how to teach them. That'll be your ultimate challenge, is if you can teach them and feel really confident and the person you're teaching to is getting it, then your numbers.
Not having a vision. I've never not had a vision. I call it PPP, proper planning prevents poor performance. So I spend an hour a week, every week, thinking about what I'm trying to accomplish, short-term and long-term. And then I spend a week by myself every year making plans. So I'm a big planner. So I've never not had a vision. And I think that's crazy, not just in your business, but in your life. So I've had it my whole life, and I'm going to continue to do it all forever. Hiring the wrong people, of course. We've all hired the wrong people. I make those mistakes now, but I'm pretty much better at it. If there's one thing I'm good at, it's hiring people, but I've certainly made mistakes doing that. Not spending time with your people, never not made that mistake. The people are everything. So I do it called management by walking around. I always walk around. I show a lot of respect to everybody, not because it's an act, because I really do respect the work that people do. So I've never really not made that mistake. Not knowing who the customer is. I've always known who the customer is. But the customer is not just the guy who pays us, it's our employees too. So I always look at our employees as our customers too, and we have to service them, because without them, I can't service the customer. Ultimately, you have to, job costing is so critical in understanding the cost. So there's been times where we haven't cost enough for our services and it was too hard. We didn't fully understand the market, so it took us a while to do it. Not staying true to your core. I'd say never. I've been consistent with what my values are from the very beginning, and I won't waver from them at all under any circumstances. Not knowing your numbers. No, I know my numbers like clockwork. Knowing them my whole life. Job costs, we've not charged enough, but we figured it out. So I really think that a lot of people run businesses to run businesses. I run businesses to make money. So I keep track and always have kept track and always will. And then you said not crystallizing roles and responsibilities. Yes, I've been guilty of that and still am. So I waver all over the place because I want to work hard, like the people work hard. So I haven't been able to pull back like some other people have, because everyone's working and I'm pushing everyone to work hard. I feel like I need to contribute as a team member like everybody else. So other guys in my position probably wouldn't do the same things I do, but as a leader, I feel like I need to, and I haven't been able to get away from that. And that's probably a bad thing and a good thing.
I think I was very clear in the vision that I had for the business, what I wanted the culture to look like, and trying to hire people for culture. I'd say the biggest mistake that we've made, and I think, and I've made it multiple different times throughout my journey. I think I finally have remedied for it. But when I had little money in the beginning, I would hire people who couldn't ultimately allow the business to do what it needed to do, and kind of trade off of great talent at higher than the business could have afforded. And I think and some of that's a practical reality of, living on a shoestring budget, and I've self-funded it, myself, right? Is recognizing, though, as soon as there's profits to reinvest back in, the first and best place for me has been upgrading talent, and recognizing an employee that might get me from 1 million to 5 million might not be the same employee to get from 1 to 50 million. And that doesn't mean they're not great people, and that doesn't mean I don't need to take care of them with compassion and good severance. They did nothing wrong, but the business might just need something differently. And I think I would agree where employees that are not completely GWC, getting it, wanting it, and have the capacity to do it, can hold the business back, and has held my business back. Sometimes I could be right in the middle of it and see that it was occurring. And for me, once you see that you're in it, I think it's prioritizing who needs to change out first, because changing multiple people at one time, to me, didn't feel like something I could actually digest. But I think the normal growing pains, to me, if there's a clear vision, that's important. The culture that you want to have, you're really clear on who your client is that you're going to serve and how you're going to differentiate. To me, those are things that can be really well grounded. Know who your competitors are, what they charge, how they differentiate before a business even opens. But I think you do your best to hire employees to help you have more than just yourself. But the reality in most small businesses, unless capital isn't an issue, and I don't know many small businesses where that's the case, you're not able to get the talent that you desire long term in the very beginning. And so it's iterative. But I think that's a common mistake, but probably a necessary mistake based upon the capital that the business has access to.
At different points over the last 10 years, probably nearly all of them have been an issue. To begin with, I don't feel like we were probably charging enough. And that's something like raising a price is a emotional process. And you have to believe it in order to do it. You have to believe that it's worth it. So I think in the beginning we were charging too little. And then I think on the finance side, we weren't doing anything like negligent, but we didn't have much of a plan when we started. I can remember a conversation when we were buying fruit, when my brother was considering joining or not, just going through how many pops we would have to sell. And that was really just like for us to pay rent. And then we just stopped at winter and didn't consider the next year. And that was a little bit of maybe us just being unsure what we were on as a business, whether we were on like a fad or whether we were starting like something that was going to stick around. So we definitely didn't have a good financial process set up. And I wish our record keeping, in addition to like making sure your cash position is good and that you're profitable when you're selling things, also a lot of those records just for like historical sales to make a better plan on, we just didn't have in an organized enough way. One that we didn't really do, another one that sticks out that's now super important to us is vision. And I don't know if that was a problem. I don't know what we would have done differently, because I don't think I could have necessarily imagined the vision that we developed 3 or 4 years later that we're now kind of pursuing. But we definitely didn't have one, and it's something I believe in. So that is kind of a weird dichotomy in my mind right now. I'm not sure if I think we should have had one, because like we said, wholesale was not a part of our vision. Would we be better off if we had not been distracted by that opportunity and had focused on one channel? Maybe so.
The one I think I do fall short on, and I always have, is on the pricing and not charging enough. And I think it's really difficult. I think anybody in a service business, a people business, a creative business will tell you that pricing is one of the hardest things to do, because theoretically we're selling our people's brains, and we're selling our people's what they know and their creativity, and then so you go back to, one of my favorite quotes was, how long did it take you to write that radio script? Well, it took me 20 years to learn how to be a great writer and write the radio script. How long did it take me to sit down and actually write it? A couple hours. But I think that's the whole thing that makes pricing very, very difficult. If you look at it as a straight hourly fee model, you're taking out the fact that somebody has so many years knowing how to communicate and how to change behavior and how to get people to purchase something. You're also always trying to balance, well, is my client going to come back with 10 revisions, or are they going to come back with 1 or 2 revisions? So have I figured out how to price? I don't know. It's still up in the air. I'm always trying to figure it out. I think one of the things that I have learned over the years is not to try and price in a vacuum. So I've got, like I mentioned, I have a wonderful team. I have a management team who are also my business partners, and bouncing pricing off of them helps me, keep things real and make sure that I'm not undercharging. I don't believe there's been a case where I've overcharged. Yet to see that one, but we'll see.
The biggest mistakes that I made is all around hiring. And I didn't know it then, of course, right? But as I look back, I definitely made some bad hires, early on. And, desperate people do desperate things. So sometimes I think back that we were hiring people because I needed to fill a spot to get something done, and hired the wrong person. And then also what I found is that sometimes you'd hang on to people longer, even though you know that you need to make a move. We actually have kind of a saying around here. We call it Don Carlos. And the reason we call it Don Carlos is the person will forever remain nameless, is because his initials were DC. So we had to come up with a code name for that person. And it was my fault, because I really liked this person, and, he had been with us for a long time, and I knew we had to let him go. So we kind of call it the Don Carlos effect. And it took 2 years. He was with us for 2 years longer than he should have been. So, there's the old saying is hire slow and fire fast. That's definitely something that early on I did not do well. I think that as I grew, figuring out roles and responsibilities was just always a challenge, because as you grow and you're adding people and figuring out, okay, are you stretching this person too thin? Or is this person doing stuff that maybe they're not good at anymore? Did we outgrow them? Kind of a thing. But that's just I think that's kind of normal, just kind of growing pains. I don't know if I would call those mistakes. I would call those just kind of, as you grow, you are constantly challenged with that, because you're creating new roles. I mean, at one point I did everything, right? I was the estimator, the superintendent, the project manager, the accountant, you know what I'm saying? So as you start filling those roles, you're always going to come up with those challenges.
So I would say in my case, probably hiring the wrong people and crystallizing roles and responsibilities probably were two big mistakes that I've made. I think you have to have a process in place to help you identify if you have the right people or you don't, or you have the right processes or different things like that. I mean, for me, if somebody has the ability to sign up with EOS or something like it early, that would be a huge, I think I would have grown even faster had I started the EOS process, say even 5 years sooner. But, you can't go backwards. So I would say just having some kind of organized, whether it's a business coach or somebody to make sure that your all your business that you're doing is in the right lane.
I would say yes on all of them to some degree. If I were to offer kind of advice, I would say a couple of things that I think really changed our business trajectory was obviously Gino's program, EOS, and his book Traction. So I think that's a must read. And one of the books that I had read before that, and Gino actually encouraged reading too, is called Good to Great. And with Gino's program and Good to Great, really understanding a lot of the people side of business, I think is probably one of the most important things. The right people, right seat concept, how to use core values, how you can use core values to help you hire and review your staff were very powerful. So I think that applies to hiring the wrong people. So that's because I think in our business in particular, where we're in tech, we're providing services to customers. It's all about people. So, having the right people in the right seat is absolutely critical for us. And, a lot of tough decisions, a lot of mistakes, but those books and that training really helped us get better at that.